Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I'm your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today. It is December 5th, a Monday in the evening, and I want to talk to you about an issue, a case that's about to go to the Supreme Court that I think's rather interesting. It's a very important case about whether or not a business has a choice, whether or not an individual has a choice. This is about freedom. And I think that's the biggest issue that is facing our nation in many ways. Do you have the freedom to choose, or does the government have the right to mandate your actions and your choices? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, I want to welcome you and I thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media that we can to allow you to contact us to speak about the issues that matter to you in chats, in tweets, and in phone calls. Every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from around the world, we ask you to join us because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in free speech. It's not just an American principle, it's for everyone in the world. And whether your government agrees or not, whether the internet overlords like it or not, we want to hear your voice every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope you will join us this Sunday. So what is the issue at the moment? What's the big deal? The big question that's going on right now in our country is freedom, choice. Do you have a right to choose? It's a big issue. What do you get to choose, and do you have that right to choose? We have many individuals, many organizations and political ideologies that mandate, that require you don't get a choice, whether it's in your entertainment, whether it's in your workplace, in your schools, and what you're being taught. We are being told that you must accept a diversity, a priority and equity to every aspect of your life. Is that fair? Is that worthwhile? I think one of the bigger cases that kind of addresses this is the one that's upcoming before the Supreme Court right now. And that is this case that we first heard about back in February of 2022, the Supreme Court to hear the case of a designer, a website designer, who is refusing to offer wedding websites for gay couples. It's pretty straightforward. It's kind of like the case that we heard out previously, where a baker decided that they did not want to make cakes for a gay couple. Now, the question is that discrimination? Is that discriminatory? Is that harmful to an individual? It's a very big issue, and it's something that's very important. And we know that currently, it seems that according to Reuters on today, the Supreme Court seems to be leaning towards the web designer in this case that has an anti-gay marriage stance. Well, let's be clear. Are they really talking about being anti-gay, or are they saying that people have a choice? See, the wording is very important here because when Reuters says it's an anti-gay marriage stance, is what the Supreme Court looking at about religion, or are they looking at life choices? Now, we do understand that the website designer in this case out of Colorado, they're saying that it's their religious freedom that they want to be able to choose who they have as a client. But it's a little bit deeper than that. See, the thing that's really important here is, the question is, this graphics designer wants to also post a statement on their website for their business that they are espousing their religious beliefs, that this is what they believe and how they do their business. So the question here is, can you, as a person, choose your clients, whether based on religion or not? Because we could equally say that you are non-religious, you're an atheist. And you could say that you have atheist beliefs and you would like to do business with atheists. It would be the same application. It would be the same qualification. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Jewish, Islamic, atheist. It doesn't matter what you believe. It would all be the same thing. Now, I think it's appropriate to look at this without the point of religion. I don't think this is necessarily a religious issue, although that is the claim that is in the courts at this time, that someone's religious beliefs is being espoused and by being mandated to do something that they believe opposes their religion is a violation of their First Amendment rights. Fair enough. But I think it's more than that. I think this is about choice. This is about freedom. I don't think it's necessarily a First Amendment issue. I think this is a constitutional by birth right. And let me explain what I mean about that. Let's take a look. The First Amendment itself says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to make petition the government for redress of grievances. So let's walk through this. The part that is important here is that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In this case, we have someone who is saying their religious belief prohibits them from working with or taking business from certain types of people. That's something that we see in Islam. That's something we see in Judaism. It's in many religions that certain peoples or types of peoples or certain types of lifestyles are prohibited. So it's not just a Christian thing. It's something that we see in many religions and has been practiced for many, many centuries that human beings have existed. And this is the federal argument, which is superseding to an extent the state decision, because this is all people. So perhaps we should stop and say, well, the argument is, does Colorado as a state have a right to make this decision as opposed to the federal government? Well, this is a constitutional argument. It's not a state's right issue. It is a people's right issue. It is a right of all Americans by birth to be able to have religious freedom and to have choice. So it's not a state issue. States cannot impede your rights unless you specifically write them away and the people of that state vote for that. That's why we have laws. Laws are infringements on our rights that we agree to. But this is an issue that affects every American at all times, everywhere. Discrimination discrimination in its various forms, as well as equity and diversity, they're things that affect everyone. So it's about equal opportunity. It is about having the chance to be able to equally perform, to start at the same, to look at it as a race, to start from the starting blocks at the same point and have that same chance to win that race. But I don't think that's what the real argument should be. I don't think that's what the core of this is. I think this goes back to the Constitution itself. And I want to take a look at the Declaration of Independence, where I think it's best stated. In the Declaration of Independence, in the second paragraph, it is said, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I think that is absolutely critical. This is the happiness clause, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, meaning that we can give away our rights if we choose to, but they are our rights at birth to start with. Going on, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish. If a government is corrupt, if it is authoritarian, then we have the right to oppose that government. Going on, and to institute new government. We get to replace the government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Again, it goes back to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and your individual safety. These are the cores of what determines a government and a nation. That we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Again, that doesn't mean the guarantee of happiness. It doesn't mean the guarantee of success. It means you have the opportunity. And that is where governments should step in. That's what the whole equal opportunity, equal employment is about, the opportunity. Having the same chance as anyone else, given the same circumstances that everyone may be in. You may not be the most brilliant person, but you have the same opportunity to go into engineering, to become a doctor. You have the same chance to do anything everyone else can do under the same circumstances. The law and governments, businesses aren't bent to take advantage of you or to discourage you or to prevent you from doing a thing. I think that's very important. Now, discrimination laws are very important. I think it's good that we have them. There's nothing wrong with having discrimination law to make sure that people are not being unfairly treated or that they are being oppressed because of religion or race, the color of their skin, where they were born, how they speak or what they speak. These are important issues. And we should look at this, and I think it's important for our nation to look at that to make sure that we are ensuring the most freedom for the most people at all times. Of course, we can never have perfect freedom. We're human beings, we work in laws and governments. It doesn't happen. So to say that we're going to have everything perfectly is just not true. It's not realistic. We have to keep that in mind. What is realistically the maximum amount of freedom that each and every individual can have, given that there are laws, given that there is a government, given that there are restrictions that we have to deal with? Looking at Colorado itself, and I want to show you the Colorado. This is Colorado's Department of Regulatory Agencies looking at the types of discrimination complaints that they handle. In this case, in each of the cases, they have employment, housing, public accommodations. None of those really address what we are seeing here. This is a private business with a potential customer. That doesn't have to do with employment or housing, nor is it a public accommodation. But looking at this anyway, we see that disparate treatment and disparate impact may be two issues that apply. Disparate treatment discrimination occurs when an employer, housing provider, or place of public accommodation treats people differently based on or because of a person's protected class. That seems to apply. It seems to. Disparate impact is discrimination occurs when an employer, housing provider, or place of public accommodation enforces or applies a rule, policy, or procedure that disproportionately adversely impacts a particular protected class or protected classes. So in other words, they are saying that, and I read this, and I'm not a lawyer, but as we can read this, a public accommodation would be something that is open to the public. Private businesses are not open to the public. But something that is open to the public must treat everyone the same. They must treat those who are Islamic the same as they treat those who are Christian or Jewish. They have to treat people who are white the same as they treat people who are black or Hispanic or Asian. That they have to treat men and women the same. And whether or not you have a sexual preference or a different identification doesn't matter. Everyone has to be treated the same under the same circumstances. That's fair. That's straightforward. Looking at this a little more deeply, we go into, and this is again going into the Department of Labor and Employment from Colorado, discrimination and harassment. They have several references of discrimination throughout their laws. But in each case, what I have found, perhaps this is just me, but everything points to employment, that a business is employing someone and the discrimination, harassment, and mistreatment is applied to the employer and the employee, not the public. But the one case where we did find, and this is under, and all the links will be found in the description, but under Colorado Legal Resources, this is CRS 24-34-402. This is discriminatory or unfair employment practices. And the lawsuit seems to come from Part E. For any person, whether or not an employer, an employment agency, a labor organization, or the employees or members thereof, which would mean any person, the public in general, seems to apply here. 1. To aid, abet, incite, compel, or coerce the doing of any act defined in this section to be a discriminatory or unfair employment practice. 2. To obstruct or prevent any person from complying with the provisions of Part 4 or any order issued with respect thereto. 3. To attempt either directly or indirectly to commit any act defined in this section to be discriminatory or unfair employment practice. That, I believe, is the basis of this lawsuit. Part 3. But Part 4 says to discriminate against any person because such person has opposed any practice made a discriminatory or unfair employment practice by Part 4 because he has filed a charge with the commission or because he has testified, assisted, or participated in any manner in an investigation proceeding or hearing conducted pursuant to Parts 3 and 4 of the article. Again, I think the most important part here is Part 3. To attempt either directly or indirectly to commit any act defined in this section to be a discriminatory or unfair employment practice. So they are saying that customers fall under this guideline, that if a business is discriminatory, that they treat people differently, either because of their religion, their race, their gender, their sexual preference, whatever category you would like, if they're treating them differently, then this applies to that customer. Looking further, we looked at the discrimination and retaliation prohibited, employee protections, criminal penalties. And again, this really doesn't apply to the public. This is towards businesses. An employer shall not intimidate, threaten, restrain, coerce, blacklist, discharge, or in any manner discriminate or retaliate against any employee. This is about employees, not the public. And once again, we look at 24-34-306, a charge, a complaint, hearing, procedure, exhaustion of administrative remedies. And in Section 1, they say, any person claiming to be aggrieved by discriminatory or unfair practice, as defined by Parts 4 and 7 of the article, by himself or herself or through his or her attorney, may sign, file with the division a verified written charge stating the name and address of the respondent alleged to have committed the discriminatory or unfair practice, setting forth the particulars of the alleged discrimination or unfair practice, and containing any other information required by the division. What that essentially means is you can make a claim and say, this has been discriminatory against me. And the key here is any person claiming to be aggrieved. That means the public. Now, I've gone through that in some detail, somewhat, to be clear. What we are talking about is a business and how it deals with the public, and how it deals with its potential customers. Every business wants to have as many customers as it can in general, but every business has the right to refuse service of the potential customers. Many stores and many restaurants that you may go to have signs and have requirements that you must wear a shirt, that you must wear shoes, that you do not allow animals into that store. There are many reasons for that, but that is a discrimination. There are many different types of discriminations that we do allow by law, but that's probably the easiest one for everyone to recognize and say, yes, we do know that exists, and that is fair. At the same time, if you have an individual who's screaming and shouting and being disruptive in your business, as a customer, you have the right to not work with them. Let's say that someone comes in to, I don't know, a Kinko's or any other kind of business like that, a photocopying business, and they are screaming because they don't like the prices that you have, and they want you to change your price. You have the right to say, well, we won't change our prices, and you can go to a competitor. You can go out to another business to get this service done. They don't have to work with that individual who is being abusive and yelling at them. Across this nation, many youth go into a McDonald's or a Wendy's fast food restaurants, and they're destroying the businesses. They're throwing things at the employees over and over again. Well, those businesses have the right to not serve those individuals, not because of the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual preference, whatever that may be, but they can do that because they're disruptive to the business. They're endangering employees. They're disruptive to people who are in there to participate in that business. They have a right to say no. So the real question, I believe, in this whole thing isn't the First Amendment issue about whether or not someone has a right to express their religion, but I believe it's more the pursuit of life, liberty, or rather, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That you have a right to be happy in your business and to work with people that you want to work with, to employ people that you want to employ, with a caveat. Now, the caveat should be, and I believe it is, that if there is no other business, if there is no competition, if there is no other opportunity, and you are discriminated against an individual where they have no other choice, that is unfair. As an example, let's say you have a baker, which has already been discussed, but looking at it from a slightly different way. Let's say you have a baker. They are the only bakery in your town. The next town is 50 miles away. And that baker says they do not want to bake cakes for Black people or Hispanic people or for women or for men or for someone who is gay or someone who identifies as a toaster. That's discriminatory. That is something that will harm that individual because they have no option. There is no equal and available choice. That's a very different situation than someone who is in a town or city, wherever they may be, where there are 3 bakeries. Now, if all 3 bakeries have a discrimination, say, well, we will not serve men or women, Christians or Jews or Islamic individuals, they will not serve people of whatever religion or race or sexual identity, if all of them have worked together, either as a conspiracy or individually, and they say that these people are isolated, again, we have a situation where there is no choice, there is no opportunity to choose. The freedom of choice has been taken away from those individuals. That is unfair and that is wrong. That's discriminatory. But if you have the opportunity, if one business will not work with you, but all other businesses choose to do so, they have that right. I truly believe that. If one business says, I don't want to make a cake for someone who is gay or who is Jewish or Christian, if they don't want to make a cake for someone who is straight, someone who is heterosexual, someone who is older, younger, whatever their reasoning, is that discriminatory? It's not preferential, but I have a choice. I don't have to give that business my money. I have other opportunities. And as long as I have other opportunities, well, then I can still get the same service or the same product from someone else and give them my business. In fact, there are many businesses that would love to have whatever it is that is being denied. And by denying that one business that has that preference, they can go out of business. I don't need to cancel them. I don't need to boycott them. I don't have to give them my money. I'm not obligated to give them. And that is part of the discrimination, where it is a requirement. It is an obligation where there is no other choice. I think that's the biggest thing. Because if I have no choice, then I don't have liberty and I cannot pursue happiness. But if I have choice and I can pursue liberty and I can pursue happiness because I have choices and opportunities, then why not? In fact, if there is a situation where someone is discriminating, I think it's one of the wonderful opportunities to go out and make your own business. If there is a market that is available for you and someone is denying a service, compete against them. Go and show them that by having a different business model, it's more effective. So let's go back to this. And this was brought to me by a friend, and we were discussing this. And I think it's important because maybe not everyone is looking at it from the same way. Because you look at this based on race, religion, ethnicity. You can look at it from sexual or other orientations. It doesn't matter. It always comes down to the same thing. Are there other graphic designers, website, individuals who can build a website? Yes, many, many, many choices around the nation and around the world and in Colorado and Denver itself. There are many choices. This one individual has a preference in their clientele. Do you have to work with that individual? No. Then what's the problem? You have not been denied life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness. You have an option. You have another choice. Until that choice has been removed, until we see that all businesses are doing that there is a concerted effort to deny you that opportunity, that business has their business model. They have that right and that choice. Just like Black businesses can focus on Black people, Jewish or religious, Christian, Islamic businesses can focus on their personnel, individuals of that same or similar faith. Gay businesses, like a gay bar, can focus on gay individuals. They have a preference to their clientele. They can deny other individuals for whatever reason. As an example, if we have a gay bar, that bar can deny neo-Nazis from coming into their business because they can be disruptive, because they don't want that business. Is that a good or bad business model? It doesn't matter. That is for that business to decide. And I don't think that anyone would be fighting to allow neo-Nazis to walk into a gay bar because that gay bar does not want that business. I don't think anyone would make that argument and say, you must allow the neo-Nazis in and disrupt your business and disrupt your clientele. I don't think anyone would ever accept that. I don't think anyone would agree with that. And this is no different. You're discriminating against a group of people. Yes. Is that illegal? Is that harmful? The key question here is it harmful? And in looking at the law, it is not harmful. It is not something that would oppress or deny individuals a service or a good. It is denying people to work with a business, a specific business. There are other businesses available. They have other businesses, some of them catering specifically to various groups. There are website designers, bakeries, all types of businesses, again, like bars and nightclubs and restaurants that specifically cater to various religious groups, various ethnicities, various sexual orientations. You have choices. And as long as you have a choice, you have not been discriminated against. You have an option. And just because someone doesn't want your business, don't give it to them. They're not mandated to do so, just as you are not mandated to use that service. And that's the key we're looking at here. Because what we are saying in this argument is the government can mandate your speech and mandate your action. And I think that is scary. Because if we are requiring that every business must, that website designers must comply, then there's a problem. Now, let me explain my point of view here. Because if this is true, if the government is able to mandate, and if this mandate is a good thing, if we do not have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then in all cases that I can bring up, we should all be able to agree that the greater good is served. Now, one example, as I just used, was the nightclub, a gay nightclub with neo-Nazis. Let's go to a different subject. Let's go to pedophiles. Pedophilia is, based on psychology today, is an ongoing sexual attraction to prepubertal, that's a tough one to say, children. It is a paraphilia, a condition that in which a person's sexual arousal and gratification depend on objects, activities, or even situations that are considered atypical. Pedophilia is a crime. It is a crime for an adult to have sex with minor. The act of pedophilia is a crime, and pedophilia is a disorder that can be diagnosed in people who are willing to disclose their paraphilia, as well as in people who deny any sexual attraction to children but demonstrate objective evidence of pedophilia. It is a disorder. It is a known disorder. It is atypical. It is not normal. Now, at the same time, we know that there is a movement around the world and in the United States that pedophiles are being rebranded as minor attracted persons. They are the same thing. Minor attracted persons are people who exhibit pedophilia, pedophilic actions. And we have seen that this has been gaining ground. And they have been claiming and trying to acknowledge themselves as part of the LGBTQAI++ environment. And we have seen that there are many people, this is a growing movement, as we see noted in November 15th of 2021, a Virginia professor has said that sexual attraction to children isn't immoral, isn't always immoral. That Alan Walker, who teaches sociology and criminal justice at Old Dominion University, said that, made the controversial comment while discussing minor attracted persons and pedophiles, and they said, in part, a lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that means a sex offender, and that isn't true. They're correct. And it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions towards minors. Walker acknowledged the use of the term minor attracted persons, or MAPS, suggests to some that it's okay to be attracted to children, but said labeling anyone wholly by their sexual desires, it doesn't indicate anything about their morality. Well, it's not about a question of morality. This is a question about what is acceptable, what is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Is it a pursuit of happiness to be able to go after children? We have accepted as a society that adults are sexually involved with children is an abuse of that child. Children do not have the ability to consent. And without consent, it is an abuse and it is a crime. So whether you would like to call it a minor attracted person or pedophilia does not change. But this movement is gaining attraction. In fact, it was August 12th of 2022. According to PennLive.com, prison sex therapist defends pedophiles as minor attracted persons, outraging victim advocates. And they said in this, The term pedophile has moved from being a diagnostic label to be a judgmental, hurtful insult that we hurl at people in order to harm or slander them. I also like to use person-first language that recognizes that any label we apply to a person is only part of who they are and doesn't represent everything they are. Fair enough. It is wrong to just call someone a pedophile like it's wrong to call someone a racist without cause, without proof. But at the same time, minor attracted individuals who act on that are pedophiles, and that is a crime. It is a sexual abuse against those minors because those minors cannot consent. Now, the reason why I'm going through that is I want to make it very clear. What's the point? Well, would you want to have and mandate, should the government mandate that web designers must create minor attracted persons' websites and proliferate them on the internet? We already know that there are many restrictions on pedophilia by law on social media and any kind of social interactions that could reach to children. We protect children on many levels, but if we are to say that there is discrimination because someone LGBTQ cannot work with one specific business, well, what about the minor attracted persons, otherwise known as pedophiles? Would you defend and do you believe that they have a right to put together websites to target children, to allow children to be involved in unconsensual acts with adults? I don't. I think I agree with the law that says they can't do that, that is wrong, that is abusive. But if we are to say that the government can mandate, then in this case in Colorado, if the government can mandate whether or not a business has the right to refuse a business, then we're stuck with pedophiles saying that you have to build a website for me. You have to build a website that does glorify minor attracted persons, whether or not the individual actually, the website designer actually wants to do that. Because if minor attracted persons if they are part of the LGBTQ++, if they're part of that self-identification, they are one of the protected groups based on their sexual orientation and self-identification, then they're protected. Therefore, they must be able to have cakes made for them. They have to be able to have websites for them. They have to be allowed to interact with the public and interact with children. And I don't know many parents, I don't know many individuals of whatever age that thinks that's a positive thing. I don't know adults that agree with that idea. And I don't think we should agree with that idea. But if the law is to be accurate, and if we are to follow it, if we are to say that discrimination is based on making every business accept every single type of client, well, then we have to accept neo-Nazis must be allowed, actively declared neo-Nazis must be allowed to enter into gay businesses that they oppose, that we must allow minor attracted persons or pedophiles to be able to interact on social media with children. I disagree with that. I think both of those cases are bad, that they actually take away from the pursuit of happiness. They take away from people's liberty. They may endanger individuals' lives in some cases. So, would you agree with that? Do you believe that pedophiles should be able to access children online? Because what you are saying in the Colorado case, what we are saying in these cases where individuals are saying, I don't want that business to conduct that business transaction with a certain individual that they disagree with, you're also saying, well, then gay bars can't deny neo-Nazis. That you're saying that you want to have minor attracted persons, pedophiles, to be able to interact with children. I think that's wrong. I think that is an aberration of the law, and we're not understanding the consequences of what we are saying. I'll give you another example. Let's take Kanye West as an example here. Kanye West has famously or infamously come out and stated that he believes that Nazis are good, that he likes Nazis. I don't know anyone who agrees with that ideology. I think everyone has denounced that, including Alex Jones and many, many others. The only person I know of that actually agrees with that is Nick Fuentes. Do you believe that Kanye should be supported? That he should be able to say that on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere, on all social media? I know a lot of people who disagree with that. That's why his fan pages have been shut down. People have stopped buying his business. But isn't that a discrimination? Aren't you discriminating against him based on his ideology? Whether or not you agree with it, isn't that a discrimination? Because, in fact, it is discriminating against him. It is an objection to him based on his beliefs, his ideology, on his preferences. But I don't know anyone who would say, oh, well, that's a bad thing. No, it's a good thing. I don't think we should promote neo-Nazi or white supremacists or black supremacists, whether they be BLM, Antifa, or anyone else. I don't believe in these supremacist ideologies or that they would impose them on other individuals. How is that different? Because it is still a discrimination. So in fact, I believe we agree it depends on how it's applied and what it's being applied to. Where is the greatest harm being committed? In denying neo-Nazis be able to enter a gay bar, in denying minor attracted people the access to children, in denying Kanye West to proliferate his support of Nazis, we are, in fact, committing acts of discrimination. I don't think that's a bad thing. We also have options. In the case of Kanye West, we have other musicians and entertainers that we can support and give our money to. In the case of web designers, we have other web designers that can create those products. We can go to other bakers. We can go to other nightclubs. We can go to and express ourselves in many different ways. We are not limited in the option. The difference, and many people would like to go back to the civil rights movement, to the 1950s, the 1930s, the past, which has been corrected in America. That doesn't exist today. In America, America is not the 1930s. It is 2022. So we don't have those same environments. People have options. They have choices. And most people acknowledge that there are differences in individuals and that they can live with those differences overwhelmingly. Although there are some features, some restrictions, either based on religion or some extreme beliefs that they do not want to support. But you have option. You have choices. You have opportunity. And that opportunity is equal. What, in fact, we are speaking about today in terms of Colorado and its Supreme Court case isn't equality. It's equity. It's about priority. It is about a mandate. It is the government and certain political ideologies forcing you to accept a decision you would not normally make on your own. That's coercion. That is force. You are being forced to accept a decision that benefits one ideological group over any other group. That's equity. That is prioritizing one group of people over other groups of people. Whatever the reasoning for that doesn't matter. That you are going to elevate them. That's not equality in any shape or form. It is actually the antithesis of equality. So we are seeing a further discrimination. In fact, it is a discrimination because you have used equity to prioritize a group above others and to impose those viewpoints, that one group, onto others, denying them their life, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. I think it's a very basic situation. Now, does that mean, and I have to accept, that maybe there's a business that doesn't want to work with someone who is a Republican. There's someone who wants to oppose or not do business with someone who is black or Hispanic. That someone doesn't want to do business with straight men. I qualify under those identifiers, and so they may not want to do business with me. That's okay. As long as I have the opportunity to receive those services, to receive those goods, to be able to enact a business transaction with people who are okay with doing that. As long as I have the equal opportunity, that I have the access to be able to get those goods and services in life and live my life without having to deal with that one business. If there is a bar that doesn't want my business, I don't have to give them my business. I can go and give it to another business. As long as other businesses exist in which I can have the same service, I don't need to go to that one place. If there's a restaurant that doesn't want to serve me, I don't have to give them my money. Why would I want to give them my money? If there is a business that says, we don't want to serve black people or Hispanic people, say a dinner, a restaurant, they don't want to serve me dinner, they don't want my business, why would I want to give them my money? I would rather see that business close. I would rather go out and tell my friends, don't go to that business. They don't serve black or Hispanics, gay or Christians or Jews or Islamic people, that they don't provide that service. Don't give them the money. And we don't have to give them our money. Rather, we would go to any other business or a preferential business and give them the money and support them in competition. And let the markets decide and show that when that business closes, we have made a statement in that action that that business is closed because they had a business model that was unappealing and unattractive. And if they continue to survive with those unappealing points of view, well, then we understand there are people who do believe that and accept that. But that should not interfere with my ability to live my life. And that's the big difference. I think that's the critical factor. Once this is something that is detrimental and negatively impacting your life because you have no choice, because you have no other opportunity, that's where the government steps in. That's when it's unfair and a problem. Not everyone will accept this. Not everyone will agree with this. But I want you to understand why I agree with this, why I believe that the Supreme Court should actually find for this web designer, not because it's against gay people, not because it's against any religion or any other point of view. It's not because this is an anti-gay marriage stance. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, very simply, our Declaration of Independence, and it has to do with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That this is the way we should be governed. That I have the right to live the way I want to. And at the end of the day, if we do not allow people to have some discriminations, which already exist, we already make those discriminations, we already have laws that allow these discriminations. If we do not, and we mandate, if we prioritize, if we use equity to put one group of people above other individuals and subsume the rights of groups of people in the name of equity, diversity, and a misunderstanding of equality, well, then we are being mandated. We have no right. We have no freedom. We have no choice. It is the government using the force of its power to obligate us, to mandate us to do things we don't want to do, that we don't need to do. We have options. We have choices. We have freedoms. You are absolutely free to say, go out and say, do not use this web designer because they will not do business with gay couples. Absolutely, you have that right. That is not discriminatory. That's not defamatory. That is a statement of fact. You have that right. And to say, I prefer to use this other web designer that will work with LGBTQAI+. That's fine. But there is a difference. Because if the government can mandate and prioritize to be selective and to say that this ideology will be enforced through the full power of the government, you no longer have a right. You no longer have freedom. And if they can choose that on any one aspect of your life, then every aspect of your life can be judged in that same manner. If the government can say you are mandated to act in a certain way, to accept businesses that you do not wish to work with, based on your religion or your pursuit of happiness and your life and liberty, then there is no life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness. There is just the obligation to live as the government has dictated. Let me look at this for many of the progressives that are out there. Imagine progressives who believe in white guilt, that believe in systemic racism. What you're talking about is forcing people to be systemically racist. If you believe that this must be mandated, if this extremity of the law, this extreme perversion of the law, that mandates individuals to do what the government says, then you're actually looking at creating and enforcing a systemic bias and discrimination because people no longer have the right to choose. I think I've made the case, and I think I've made the examples in 3 different ways. And yes, they may be extreme examples. Maybe they don't apply in every single case everywhere, but they do apply. And if the application of law in the most extreme sense is something that is a denial of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if it is in the extreme sense, if it mandates a obedience to government and denies individual freedom and choice, then that is a bad law. That is a bad decision. It is a bad choice. Because at some point, the extreme becomes the norm. It just depends on who's in power at any given time. And if that exists, someone can abuse the law and force that on you. Because you have no right. You have no freedom. And by extrapolation, it can go from you must do business with everyone. You must do business as an individual. You must do these actions in your business. Well, then every business must. And every choice must. And the priority must be as dictated by that government. I absolutely look forward to all the LGBTQAI++, whatever the alphabet may be, businesses that go out there and you want to be a web designer and you have a huge clientele. Fantastic. There are businesses with straight individuals that are going to appeal to LGBTQAI++ individuals. Fantastic. Same thing with religions, whether it's Christian, Jewish, Islamic, I don't care. You're Taoist, you're Buddhist, it doesn't matter. I love diversity and I hope many people are being able to be diverse or specific and to be successful. Great for you. But to mandate and to prioritize, to provide equity to one individual group over all other groups is a path that leads to authoritarian rule and a lack of freedom for anyone and everyone, including the groups that you have presumed to be helping. At the end of the day, it means less freedom for every individual, and it will harm everyone and help no one. That's the way we look at this. We would like to hear what you think. Is there something wrong in the logic we have proposed? Does this not make sense to you? If not, why? Don't tell me that I'm just a racist. Don't tell me I'm a sexist. Don't tell me I'm some kind of ist or phobe, because that's not accurate. We're talking about the law and the application of the law and whether or not it impedes freedom for the majority of individuals. I don't care how you feel about me making my case. I care about, does it make logical sense? Is it logical? And does the consequence of going with a mandate supersede freedom? I'd like to hear what you think. And we hope that you'll join us every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to share your thoughts about this and all issues that are affecting us across the globe. I thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you again soon. I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference. When you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription, you make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed, and I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal, and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. We will strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can, because you deserve no less. Thank you.